Phrasing is truly the secret for improvising well and sounding awesome. The problem is that when you YouTube search it, all you get is very effeminate soy boys that talk like Yoda in riddles, or these old black dudes that scat at you. Today we're going to break it down logically and figure out what the hell is going on. The number one thing that you need to understand is that tunes come phrased. The melody is a phrase, and it has a lot to teach you about shit that works in the tune. Let's take Georgia, for instance. Georgia on My Mind. Everybody knows it. Hoagie Carmichael, Ray Charles has a famous version. I play it in E flat, but here's the tune, right? It goes, Georgia, Georgia, da 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 do. Do 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 be ba ba boo ba be do. That's the first 8-measure phrase. Let's start breaking down the melody. Now, if I take a look at the first 2 measures, it has 1-measure phrases that are perfect rhymes. What's a perfect rhyme? Well, when the rhythm is identical and also sits in the same place in the measure. Boo-ba, ba-boo-ba, right? Da-da, that's 1 and, right? 1 and 2, 3, 4, 1 and. Georgia, Georgia. Now, obviously, Georgia and Georgia are identical. They're not rhyming words, but the rhythm is kind of like rhyming. Now, if I do too many perfect rhymes in a row, I start sounding like I'm talking in nursery rhymes. They'll be like, doo-da, 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 doo-da. Nobody wants to hear that. That's real bad. But there is a really powerful mechanism called the rule of 3 that they use in writing, in comedy, in literature. And the whole idea is that you have 2 setups and a punchline, meaning that you can repeat something twice and then do a variation the 3rd time, because people crave both complexity and resolution. So this is a great tool and a great way to generate interest. So what's the rule of 3 here? I have Georgia, Georgia, the whole day through. Now, boo-ba, boo-ba. It's the same kind of rhythm that I had before, meaning 2 8th notes together with a space, but now they are not symmetrically the same in the measure. It's not 1 and, now it's 1, 2 and, 4 and. So on the second set of 2 measures, they sit in a different place in the form. Boo-ba, doo-da, doo-da, doo-da. That in itself is already a powerful phrasing tool. If I just change the notes and stay inside the chords in terms of the modes and arpeggios I play, I can make melodies that go like. I also don't have to play those exact rhythms. I could just use the principle and add things to it. Like I can go. So now I had these 2 perfect rhymes. Ba-do-do-do-da, do-do-do-do-da, ba-da-da-do-do-do-da. Right? So that's that rule of 3 in action. Question, question, answer, you might call it. But we'll get to question and answer in a minute. Right now, we're just trying to extrapolate principle from how the melody is laid out in the tune. Now, let's take a look at the second phrase. It goes, just an old sweet song keeps Georgia on my mind, right? That's a 4-measure phrase. 1, 2, 3. Ba-da-doo-doo-dee-doo-doo-da-dee-da. It's busy on measures 1 and 2, and it's resting on measures 3 and 4, but the space is a part of that phrase, meaning the empty space, the negative space, is still a part of that picture. So if I analyze Georgia rhythmically and I try to extrapolate a principle, what's happening is that I have this question, question, answer in the first 4 bars, and then I have a 4-measure phrase that's busy on 2 measures and empty on 2 measures. So let's try to improvise like that. If I go... Cool. Now let's take a look at the bridge. Do 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 de da do da de da. That's 2 measures. Da 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 de de do da de da. That's another rhyme. Other arms look out to me, other eyes smile tenderly. Exact repetition of that rhythm, right? Now the 3rd time, rule of 3, right? I have that bo da 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 dee do do dee do do. So it's exactly what happened in the first 4 measures, but now spread out on 8 measures, meaning now I have perfect rhymes, 2 measures and 2 measures, and then I have basically the beginning of that perfect rhyme, but it ties into the next thing, so they make a 4-measure phrase out of it. Let's try to improvise that way. So at the end there, I didn't leave that 2-measure space. I played like throughout the second 4 measures, which when you're soloing, it makes sense to fill up more space. But you see what I'm doing. I'm really using the underlying phrasing logic of the melody as scaffolding for my playing. I try to really conceptualize the space. Now, it's a practice tool. When you are playing, you shouldn't be thinking about anything. But the problem is that if you record yourself playing over these forms and play and play and play, and you judge your playing, you'll notice that you tend to do a lot of the same shit in the same places in terms of where it's busy and where it's empty. And as you practice this, you increase your vocabulary of things you know how to do and things you can imagine. And that's really the point of studying many melodies in that resolution. Now let's talk about harmonic question and answer. If I take that tune or any other tune, there's a series of chords in it. There's a harmonic progression. Now, the basic way you can look at it is that you have your 1 major and its relative minor, and those are home. And everything else is not home, meaning those are the harmonic answers, and everything else is a question. The way that we're taught question and answer phrasing is overly simplified. It's like, pudu-bi, puda-ba, right? Just this thing of like a melodic question and answer, which we'll get to in a minute. But you have to understand that the bass motion is also playing this game of tension and release that could be interpreted as question and answer. So if I'm thinking about Georgia, it starts home. It starts on the answer, goes to a question. 5 of 6 leads you to sad home. Another question. Home, home, question, question, answer, question. It's enough for you to just play a continuous line, let's say an 8th note line, and end it in the territory of a harmonic question for the phrase to be perceived like a question. So if I take my line from that E flat to the G7, the first chord to the second chord, I'm leading it from that stable place in the harmony to the unstable place in the harmony. And if I put that last note of the melodic phrase there, the echoing harmonic thing creates this feeling of question, no matter what note in that harmony I resolve to. That was a series of questions. Now I'm going to guide the line to the C minor, to measure 3. It's going to feel more resolved. It's going to feel like I'm answering it. Right? That was too much relief, too many answers in a row. But that's how it works. You have to have this awareness of where the cadences are and where the home chords are to be able to put your line to rest, or really in the context of jazz, to avoid putting your line to rest. You want this forward motion most of the time. You don't want to resolve. Now, when we get into this idea of question and answer, even when I'm in the territory of a home chord, of that E flat or of that C minor, I can do things that make it sound more question-like if I really understand what melodic questions sound like. So something that's really typical of questions in English is when I end the phrase, I can go up to make it sound like I'm asking a question. Right? Now, not every language does that. Japanese and Icelandic, when they ask a question, they don't go up in pitch. They don't do that thing. And that's why they swing like a dick on a statue. But we do that. So listen to what that sounds like, even on that first chord. Right? That thing. If you combine that contour with resolving to an offbeat, to ending the line off the beat, again, it destabilizes the line, it makes it sound more like you're asking a question. So I'm going to play a line now that goes to the C minor, but I'm going to try to make it a melodic question, even though it's at a place of harmonic consonance. Bo-do-do-bop, be-a-da-do-be-ba. Right? You see what that does to the phrase? Cool, that's a really, really important tool. Now, there are other really cool phrasing things that you can use, like internal rhyming or near rhymes. If I take a look at that second phrase in Georgia, I consider that a near rhyme. If you listen to Leonard Cohen rhyming things, he'll rhyme words like mine and time or something like that, where there's something in that word that sounds similar. Since the phrase is long, you don't really remember what that open rhyme word exactly was, but something from that sound is still there. To me, that's like playing a rhythm that's related or the same rhythm, but not in the same place, right? Georgia, Georgia, the whole day through. Do-da, ba-do-da, right? Those rhythms rhyme, but they're not perfect rhymes. They're not in the same place in a new measure. They're in a different place in the same measure, right? So you can maybe use trills or something like that at the ends of phrases, but just do it kind of freely to make the phrases related after they're divided by a space. If I play a 2-measure phrase like... So that ta-da-da-da-dee-do, pa-dee-da-dee-do. They're kind of similar, but they're displaced. They're not exactly sitting in the same spot in time symmetrically. And that creates that feeling of connectivity between that first part and the second part. Now, the other tool that's really powerful is internal rhyming or illiteration. If you take a look at like a Dr. Seuss book or Chris Christopherson or Shel Silverstein poem, they all have a lot of that, like feeling nearly faded as my jeans. It's a way of tying the body of the text together to give it like this connected feeling. Or, you know, I do not like them, Sam. I do not like them in the house. I do not like them with a mouse. I do not like them, you know, I don't like Sam. I don't like Sam. I am. It's like filled with like internal rhymes inside the phrases when you read books like that. And in jazz, if I just take gypsy jazz, has a ton of like inside the phrase, baddle do the dee bo, daddle do the dee do, beat to daddle do the dee do, daddle do the dee bo. Right? These things that are sort of little motifs that go together. You can come up with a ton of them. Contours make it happen. Rhythms make it happen. Enclosure. It's that kind of treatment of language that makes the body sound like it's a unit. So let me just play through Georgia a little bit using a lot of these tools together. If you dig this, we did breakdowns of other forms and other tunes on our Patreon. Please join us there. And if you comment below, you have a chance to win a free month as a patron of me and Nick. You can be our patron. It's going to be awesome. Also, don't forget to subscribe, like, leave a comment, do all that stuff, and we'll see you next time.